What's up, everybody? It's PLD, and welcome to PLD 1138, episode 5, which obviously means it's going to be the best episode of the series, at least so far. Well, you're on PLD Products YouTube channel, my little slice in the YouTube universe, and this is my Star Wars show. On this show, I will go over, give you commentary on latest news tidbits, maybe some reviews as things drop. I will also maybe do some new segments such as PLD proclamations, where I go on I don't know if say a rant is the right word, but I'll go and take my little commentary on certain aspects of the universe. And I will also go do my walkthrough of the Star Wars media, which I began in the first episode. So it's going to continue on until I make it all the way through or until I join the Force. Welcome with me to a galaxy far, far away. And in this short form content, next 15, 20 minutes, let's do this thing. So, first up, the first news tidbit to break this week. It's a big one. It is definitely a big one. There it is. Ahsoka Tano to be played by Rosario Dawson in season 2 of The Mandalorian. That's an artist mock-up of Rosario as the character. It's definitely not the real thing yet. I wish I had a credit. If this is your picture, let me know. I will credit you in the description. I found this on Google. But let's talk about it. This is not confirmed by Disney or Lucasfilm yet, but Peter Serreta from Slash Film, a very strong source, he's a very reliable source, has said that he has confirmed with 2 inside sources that this indeed has happened, and Rosario Dawson will play Ahsoka, fan favorite Ahsoka Tano in The Mandalorian season 2, which, as I said last week, has wrapped filming. So this is a secret that's been a long time held, or this is something that's going to be a short-term thing that's going to be maybe in reshoots, maybe only she appears in reshoots or something to that effect, which is why I say we should temper our excitement just a little bit, I know it's easily to get all wrapped up that she's a fan favorite character from the Clone Wars, and people have been dying to see her in live action, and Rosario Dawson has been one of the top people named as a fan casting dream. The only other one that has been really mentioned with the same fervor would be Ashley Eckstein, who did the voice for Ahsoka in Clone Wars and Rebels. I always thought that was kind of a long shot, though. You don't really see that happen very much. But since it isn't Ashley, I think Rosario Dawson is a perfect candidate. As you see this mock-up, she actually looks a lot like the character as it's drawn, especially an older version of the character, as we will be getting, given where we are in the timeline. But even if it is true, I still say temporary excitement because we don't know what this means. How big of a role is she going to play? If it's a secret and she's actually throughout The Mandalorian season 2, that's something to be excited about. The other question I have is where in the timeline do we see her? In the first season of we had flashbacks into the Clone Wars. That's where the young Mandalorian was found before it was a foundling. So do we get Ahsoka only in flashbacks? Do we see an older Mandalorian as he's been brought up through the system, and we see Ahsoka during these flashbacks and only bits and pieces? I gotta say it's more than bits and pieces, or say would I cast Rosario Dawson? But it does make me wonder. That would kind of tend to make me a little less excited. I kind of want to see where she is post Rebels. I want to see the story moving forward. We got the Clone Wars to fill in the gaps, the backstory. So I mean, there's a lot of potential here. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to, throw all sorts of water on you, cold water on you. But I do say that it's easy to let your imaginations run away with you and then get disappointed. So I say, take this with a grain of salt. Be intrigued, and if it is confirmed, a little more intrigued, and then let's see what they do with it. But I will say, in Dave Filoni, I trust. So that's definitely a good start. And I don't know. This is pretty good news, I think. I'm pretty happy about it. So let's find out. Next story piece we have. Not too far there. Star Wars number 4 from Marvel Comics came out this week. The Destiny Path Part 4. This is a good issue. As I said last episode, this is going to be some spoilers. Obviously, it's a spoiler right in the cover there. Leia was put in carbonite last issue. If you haven't been following along, Luke, Leia, and Lando. This takes place post Empire Strikes Back. They have gone back to Cloud City. Luke wanting to try to retrieve his lightsaber that he lost, and Lando wanting to help find his good friend Lobot, who has become much more of a bigger supporting character in the new canon than he ever was in the films, of course. course, the only film he was in was Empire Strikes Back. They were broken up. They had some struggles. Leia was caught and put into carbonite. Luke was in a garbage collector, looking in amongst a lot of thousands of pounds and miles of garbage. Lando did find Lobot though. It was a great issue. Very true to occasion that the character is really well drawn. Leia, I will say, spoilers, does not stay in the carbonite very long. Um, but there's some cool tidbits there. Nothing hugely revealed. Um, they do find, like I said, Lando has found Lobots. That issue is a little bit resolved. Luke, of course, as we know, does not find his lightsaber. He doesn't have the lightsaber, as obviously he's got to go make his green one eventually. By the time Return of the Jedi comes around, and we know that Maz Kanata eventually ends up with Luke's lightsaber, but that was always a big question. How did that happen? A little tidbit here is revealed. I don't go into too many details. At least the start of Luke's journey, Luke's lightsaber's journey. Hopefully, we'll get a little more of that weave throughout canon. Be a nice little tidbit. I think that should be a nice, cool way to just go through all the different stories of the timelines. All of a sudden, Luke's lightsaber appears in Mandalorian, or Luke's lightsaber appears in another book about, I don't know, Leia or something down the line, and eventually before it gets into the hands of Maz Kanata. But either way, it's a fun issue. It's an intriguing issue. Charles Soule is a great writer. He really seems to know the universe very well. And at the end, this is not much in the way of spoilers, but this is the end of the first arc, I believe. Luke actually is going off in a separate direction, leaving the rebellion a little bit to try to find some answers. But it's definitely got a place going forward. So the only other bit of news we had this week was just the Rise of Skywalker was released early this week, a couple days early, getting again away from the Corona apocalypse. Disney rewarded fans by releasing a few days earlier. You get to sit down with that movie, and if you loved it, some people didn't. That's okay. I got to watch it a few times already. Very happy, very excited, very fun, and that's really all we had in the news this week. All very little tidbits. We're always going to get these little tidbits, but very exciting news with the, like I said, very exciting news with the Ahsoka Tano thing. I hope that goes down the way it should go down. Next up, we'll do a review. Clone Wars Season 7, Episode 5, Gone Without a Trace. That dropped on Friday, and it almost could bypass you with Ahsoka having been in Rebels, with maybe the Ahsoka news. But interestingly enough, this is the first time we're seeing Ahsoka in the Clone Wars continuity since she left the Jedi Order at the end of Season 5. If you remember, she wasn't in Season 6 at all, the Lost Missions. And this Season 7 really, in some ways, is like the second half of Season 6, really. It's just a different finale that just was finished years later. This is a storyline that was talked about a few times. Dave Filoni had some panels called Ahsoka's Untold Tales, and he mentioned some of this particular saga was never finished. They showed little bits and pieces of unfinished work, but never the whole full bits. So I'm very happy to say this is not the same story as the Bad Batch, where we know the whole story. We just knew a little bit about it. In the original tale, I believe the character of Ahsoka met up with an Asian lead male character. I want to say he was named Nix, but that is scrapped. It was changed around. Especially some people think they reported that because Resistance was led by a male Asian character, that this was a way for them to get around doing something different, and they changed it to a female by the name of Trace and her sister Ra. And it's Ahsoka. It's a great depiction of Ahsoka. She's lost. She's very lost at this point. She doesn't know where she's going. She doesn't know who she is. She's never lived away from the temple, never lived away from the Jedi. And she's down and out in the lower levels of Coruscant with some of the less savory characters. Although the ones she runs into aren't quite as unsavory as others. But it leads to some hijinks. It leads to Ahsoka kind of finding herself with some people that are different than the people she's palled around with before. I'm quite interested to see where this is going to go. There are the two sisters together, and Ahsoka is working with one and not so much with the other. but it was a good episode overall. It's definitely it's setting up a little bit more where Ahsoka's got to be. And we know again eventually that this is going to end up leading Ahsoka to the Siege of Mandalore, and that's not going to be too far away. So we can't dwell too long on this era of Ahsoka. So we'll hopefully see some big growth, some big time moving forward where Ahsoka can stand on her own in order to reclaim that powerful role she has at the end of uh, end of the season and the end of the Siege of Mandalore, which should close out this season. But that's the episode. That's the episode we dealt with this week. I can't wait to see next week's episode. This week, I'd give it about I'd say about 4 out of 5. It was fun. It was good. Nothing like extremely revelatory, but it didn't have to be. It was perfect depiction of Ahsoka, where she is and where she needs to be. Anyway, so the next bit I'll go is the first time I'm going to do this. It's called PLD Proclamations. I'm going to take something about any part of the saga or any part of the universe, and we go do a little bit of a deep dive commentary on an aspect of it. And this week, it made sense to do with the release of Rise of Skywalker. Am I watching it? This is something that's been stewing inside me for a while. I want to stress right here, right now, I am a positive Star Wars channel. I'm a positive Star Wars fan. I refuse to get into the toxicity, the hatred. People can, as far as you're concerned, you love Last Jedi, love Last Jedi. If you love Rise of Skywalker, love Rise of Skywalker. If you love Jar Jar Binks, love Jar Jar Binks. Love whatever you want to love. Just don't hate anything. Just choose not to watch it. Choose not to talk about it. It doesn't. I mean, if you want that kind of thing, go elsewhere. I don't want you here. I don't, even if I only have 90 subscribers. I'm happy with people who want to be here and want to talk good things about Star Wars. With that being said, it doesn't mean I can't be critical of the saga. And this is what actually I'm going to do here. On some other channels, you've seen me defend Rise of Skywalker to some of those aforementioned people who did not like it very much. So I didn't get to talk too much negatively about it because I didn't need to feed into it anymore. But this is part of the saga that I really want to touch base on. Again, I don't want the credit for this particular picture, but this is where I'm going to go with. Problem I had with episode 9 is similar to some of the problems I had. Other people did have. J.J. Abrams did say that this was the conclusion of not just the sequel trilogy, but of the saga. He wanted to tie it all together, the whole saga, tie episode 1 to episode 9, and all of those in between. And I did it in subtle ways, and I think that is the major problem. With a saga as big as Star Wars, you go all out. You go all Avengers Endgame. You take as much as you can. You get the kitchen sink. You throw it all in there. You don't have to be subtle anymore. And this was more, the connections were subtle. I wouldn't say the movie was subtle anyway, but the connections were subtle. And it leads to I wouldn't say anticlimactic, because there are some very powerful moments in the movie and a very powerful ending in general. I think there's steps that could have been taken to make it even more powerful. I would start, well, not quite with this picture. I will start with one of the major problems that the saga had and episode 9 had was Palpatine's return. Not because of people saying that they didn't like how he returned or didn't explain how he returned. To me, I thought it was explained enough. That didn't bother me. What does bother me is the fact that it undermines the whole purpose of the saga. Darth Vader, I mean, episodes 1 through 6, George Lucas has said now, it was the fall and the redemption of Anakin Skywalker, the chosen one. The end of episode 6, Anakin sacrifices himself. He destroys the Emperor, bringing balance to the Force, saving Luke in order to start a new Jedi Order. Now, the fact that evil is going to rise again in someone else, that makes sense to me, and that's not a big deal. I don't think that undermines Vader's sacrifice. Things can be reset. But the fact that it's Palpatine and Anakin's the chosen one, and now it's up to Rey and people, that kind of struck a little bit of a raw nerve me a little bit. I wanted to see Anakin more involved somehow. And it could have been done. If you bring back Palpatine, why don't you bring back Anakin? Now, I understand the argument that this is Rey's story now, and you bring back Anakin, it could overshadow Rey, but you don't need to bring back Anakin in any kind of full fashion, especially considering what they did at the end. The end, they had the great moment of one of the great moments in finale was the voices when Rey is sitting there looking at the stars, trying to hear all the Jedi, and Palpatine talks about all the Sith, and we hear Anakin, we hear Qui-Gon, we hear Mace, and we hear them all say, We're all with you. You're taking our steps with us. Take your final steps." Rey says, "Young Obi-Wan Kenobi." And she does. She becomes all the Jedi. It's a good climactic finale. I just don't think they went far enough. And a key turning point would have been this to me. There's two key points that I wanted to make. A lot of people, one thing they did love about Episode 9 was the surprise reappearance and cameo by Harrison Ford as Han Solo. Now, not a live Han Solo, it's memory, as they say. Kylo, after his duel with Rey, and Rey leaves, Kylo's left on there. It's actually Ben Solo at this point, if you want to be more precise. He has a memory of Han, and there's a very touching scene between the two that mirrors Episode 7 when Ben killed Han, but done in a more positive way and allowing Ben to reclaim the mantle of Solo and really kick off his redemption and return to herodom, or so he can go help out Rey against Palpatine at the end. And it was a good moment. I'm not gonna lie, I loved it. I love seeing Harrison Ford back in any way. Yeah, Han Solo is one of my favorite characters in the saga. However, that being said, I think that it was a missed opportunity. And this is what I'm showing you in the picture now. Again, if this is your picture, I'll give you credit in the description. Let me know. I saw some people as Anakin's Force Ghost. That's what I wanted to see. We needed more Anakin. Anakin Skywalker, even if this is Rey's part of the story, the whole thing is called the Skywalker Saga. The Skywalker Saga is the story of the Chosen One. Anakin's fall, Anakin's redemption. Anakin should be playing a big part in 7 through 9. I can get him not being in 7 and 8, kind of like why Luke wasn't in 7. You don't need him to be in the whole story per se. He's there guiding Kylo, even if it's not really him. The spirit, and I don't even mean the Force Ghost, I mean like the spirit side of Ben trying to fulfill Darth Vader's mission, so to speak. But you need him for Episode 9. Because this is it. It's supposed to be the granddaddy of them all. You got to have the Chosen One in there. So it was a perfect opportunity to reach out to Hayden. Hayden actually makes an appearance with his voice, which is something. But I guess it didn't go far enough. And this is right where it should have happened. Instead of Ben Solo seeing Han, which was a touching, that was one way they went. And it wasn't a bad choice. But I think it would have been better if he saw Anakin. Ben Solo, who had been worshiping Anakin and Darth Vader throughout the entire sequel trilogy, finally gets to meet face to face. And I want to highlight that a little bit more. Face to face with his grandfather. Now, would some people go, "The hell is that?" Maybe some casual fans might not get it. They understand Harrison Ford as Han Solo more. But really, this is not about the casual fan at this point. This is the hardcore fan. This is what we are. This is what we're all waiting for. We want to see Hayden Christensen. Maybe not all of us, I shouldn't say that. But the ones we get who it is. We're going to know who it is right away. It's Anakin Skywalker, the Chosen One. It's Darth Vader. So having this confrontation would have made for a better moment and a better way to redeem Ben. Anakin needed one line. I kind of wrote this one-off line in a Mark Riley's cantina. Anakin simply could have said something to the effect of, "Ben, you've been following my footsteps your whole life. Remember, my footsteps led back to the light." Because Anakin was redeemed. At least he went back to the good side. Redeeming is a strong word, as an argument to be made for a different day. Anakin came back to the light and brought balance back to the Force. Ben could just as easily keep following in Anakin's footsteps and return to the light to help Rey against his enemy, Emperor Palpatine. That's one part of it. The second part of it comes at the very end itself. The very end itself, they could have had a real big moment. One of the biggest moments, for example, again, maybe I shouldn't be bringing Avengers Endgame into it, but Avengers Endgame's big moment was portal sequence. Captain America's down and out. He's beaten. You don't want to copy Avengers Endgame. I get that. But you have the on your left moment, and all of a sudden the portal's open, and there's all the heroes from the MCU at that point coming to face Thanos. We could have had something similar to that. When Emperor Palpatine has his Sith legions, he starts talking about having all the Sith. We don't need to know the Sith. We could have had this representation of some kind of spiritual warfare to go with the physical warfare. Rey could have faced the physical form of Palpatine lightning, everything else. Maybe Ben could have been there too. At one point, when Rey stands up and she asks all the Jedi to be with her, and you hear all these voices come in about Anakin saying, "Rise, restore balance to the Force." It would have been a nice, touching aspect to have Rey stand up and have a wall of Force ghosts behind you. You could have Anakin, you could have Luke, you could have even Leia at that point. You could see Mace or Qui-Gon, Obi-Wan, Yoda, all of them. You could have a big army of the Jedi, all the Jedi we ever knew in spiritual form, facing up against the spiritual form of the Sith somehow. Now, yes, I get it. I know I could already hear some complaints in that, well, that was a special part of the Force. Only people who have stayed with consciousness. Qui-Gon's the only one who knew how to do it. He taught Yoda. Yoda taught Obi-Wan. But Anakin knew how to do it. And maybe I think it could be said that the Force in a strong moment such as this, where it's a climactic, almost apocalyptic type battle situation, maybe they were able to channel the Force and return some of these people to at least a Force ghost area, retain the consciousness, because it's all part of the Force. You become one with the Force. Who's to say the Force can't have its will of its own and bring them back to a degree to fight a battle against the spiritual side of the Sith? I think that would have made a freaking awesome climactic finish. You get everybody, get the whole ball of wax from episode 1 through episode 9, all in one go. It's a great way to finish out the saga. I mean, it's not to say we didn't have some cool moments. I love the sequence where Lando comes back with the Falcon and he brings up all the people of the galaxy. But that was part of the problem. So we didn't know anybody there. We knew Wedge, who got a split-second cameo. We knew Zori from earlier in the episode, and of course, Babu Freak. But so seeing people we knew come back in at the end there would have added just that extra twinge and a better, really cool sequence. But I don't know. I don't know what you think about that. You can let me know in the comments. That's something I would have liked to have seen. Who knows? You can call me an idiot too. I've been called worse, and I'll just say bye-bye. So, well, that's the end of PLD Proclamations. The last thing we'll go through on my increasingly long, shorter form content is this week's Media of the Week. Let's get this back on here in the picture. This week is Star Wars issue number 7 from Marvel Comics. It was released October 11th, 1977. It was called Star Wars number 7, New Planet, New Perils. Now, this issue was the first issue of the Marvel Comics that was not part of adaptation. The first 6 issues adapted A New Hope. So this was the first time we get a new original story. And interestingly enough, unlike Splinter of the Mind's Eye, which we will talk about, and also other media to come forth, this one had Han Solo. A lot of the other media chose to follow Luke and Leia's adventures because George Lucas didn't have a contract on Harrison Ford. They didn't know whether Han Solo was going to return or not. So George Lucas wanted this stuff to go after Luke and Leia so that he could have stuff to mine from in case Harrison Ford didn't come back. On the other side, maybe this is the brilliant side, Marvel Comics said that at least for the foreseeable future, the Star Wars comic would focus more on Han and Chewie, which would have meant if that continued in that way and Harrison Ford had chosen not to come back for Empire Strikes Back, you have a movie for Luke and Leia and maybe new characters that would be reintroduced. And then the Star Wars Marvel Comics could continue the Han Solo and Chewie adventures on their own, giving you the best of both worlds. But real quick, a summary. Han and Chewie get their money. They decide they're traveling off to Dantooine, as it says. That might be an error. That might be maybe Jabba had a base there. But they want to repay Jabba the Hutt the money they owe him, as he mentioned in episode 4. He doesn't get very far. They get pirated. Crimson Jack and Para and Julia and Azura all make their first appearances in these series. Jack and Julia are people who are characters who would appear again later on. Crimson Jack is a pirate. He takes Han and Chewie's hard-earned money. They don't get to keep it very long, but they do keep Han alive because, as Crimson Jack says, if Han's alive, then he will be able to steal from Han again. It's kind of a funny moment, I thought. So Han and Chewie are forced to sit down and try to hide out and try to figure out what to do because they still have the price on their head. They can't really return to the rebels at this point. They can't really do much of anything. So they end up seeking refuge on a planet called Duba 3. They're hired. They got to start hiring themselves out. They start working some jobs. They have to bury a recently deceased Borg, as they call it. I didn't really realize when I reread it. I'm like, Borg. Well, before Star Trek had the Borg, Star Wars had the Borg. Of course, so it's just a slang way of saying cyborg, basically. But they just had to meet resistance from a local. The locals didn't want them buried in their traditional mount. It's typical Loki Star Wars not invading, but dealing with cultures that are different from them and customs that are different from them. But either way, they do complete the job, they get it done, and they're left at the end at the cantina when they're approached by somebody to hire them again. So in this case, they're just going to keep hiring themselves out to save the day and to get that money. Get that money so they can pay Jabba back. That's a fun issue. Swashbuckling, they do a good job of showcasing Han Solo where he's at. I enjoyed it quite a bit. So the swashbuckling adventures will continue in the comic book, and we'll see how that goes. But I guess that will wrap up the show. We did our reviews, we did our news, we did our media walkthrough. I hope you enjoyed it. Please hit that like and subscribe. I'm close. I'm getting close to 100 subscribers. I think I'm on 94. So I got 6 subscribers left, I believe. Come on, PLD1C. Let's do it. And hit that like button. Let me know in the comments what you want to see from me on PLD1138 or on PLD Views, my show on V, the 1983 sci-fi classic, or other things you might want to see on the channel. Let me know. I want to hopefully entertain you and have fun with you guys. But for now, it's time to go, and may the force be with you always. Oh, no, I should say too, at Paul_DiNuzzo. That's my Twitter handle. You can contact me there as well. And you can also see me on Class Action on the Action Industries YouTube channel and Call to Action, Movie Trivia Schmodown After Show of the Year from 2019. So find them, find us. It's a good time. Again, now I'll try it again. That was a false start ending. The real ending now. I'm really leaving this time. May the force be with you always.